Happy April, Creighton and Nebraska basketball fans. This is the Half Court Press podcast. Sam McKewon along with Joel Lorenzi, back from getting his award at the United States Basketball Road Association. Watched the national title game. The Big East won the national title. Yep. UConn won the national title, won it kind of going away, just like they did in the rest of the NCAA tournament. We will get to that. We'll get to more departures for Creighton. We will start, though, with Nebraska. And there's some breaking news, not in a good way, but in kind of an way. Kerr Kriisa, the Arizona point guard that had visited Nebraska and visited West Virginia, committed to West Virginia just about 20, 30 minutes ago. He also had Xavier in his top three, but at the end of the day, he picks West Virginia, the school that I think probably gave him more NIL money and also is a little bit better program. I mean, they went to the NCAA tournament. Nebraska did not, so the Husker search for a point guard continues, barring a guy who used to play around here entering the portal. I don't know that Nebraska has any definitive answer on who they would go to as a plan B. That guy that used to play around here isn't in the portal right now. So, I don't think...
Is this the guy that plays in the Big Ten?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to, if he's not in the portal, we don't need to talk about it. But barring that guy going in the portal, I don't know that they have any definitive answers at point guard. They're going to have to search around a little bit, and they're probably going to have to make sure they've got a good NIL presentation. Nebraska also is hosting a center next week from Pittsburgh, John Hughley. Hughley. There's no H in his name. It's Hugley. However, they are hosting him. He played pretty well last year, 2021-22, about 15-7. Hurt his knee in the beginning of preseason this year.
Yeah. Had some stuff derail the season.
Gained some weight. So there's a lot of numbers out there. I put 265 in my story, but it might be 280. He's 6'9", 280. Similar player to Derek Walker, although I watched 9 minutes of his highlights last night, and I would not describe him as exactly like Derek Walker. He's actually a little bit more, he's better shooter, better in the open court, probably not quite as good of a passer as Walker. Doesn't quite have the touch maybe that Walker does, but a player that could definitely help them. They're going to host him next Monday and Tuesday. No, that's not true. They're going to, it is. I think they're going to host him next Monday and Tuesday, or the Monday and Tuesday following maybe is when they're going to host him. And then he also makes a trip to West Virginia. So Nebraska's still on the hunt for transfers. Hunter Salas, we'll see how that develops this week. Nebraska would love to add him to the roster. I don't know that that's going to happen. Hunter will have some other options. Their family is going to sort through those options this week, and it's important for Husker fans to remember that when Hunter went through this the first time, Nebraska was not in his top 12. However, dynamics around the program have changed since he made that decision. That is up-to-date news on Nebraska. We'll see if anything materializes the rest of this week. Casey is not declared for the NBA draft. He has 18 days to do so. And I don't anticipate anyone else on that team declaring for the NBA draft. And I think if someone transfers from Nebraska, they will do so based on what Nebraska adds. And at this point, they haven't added anything. Okay, that's your Nebraska update. Now we go to Creighton.
I want to use the Kerr Kriisa thing as just a note, man. We got to stop putting stock in crystal balls. I mean, I got a lot of respect for the people who do this stuff, but with how fast these players change their minds and the ability for that feeling to shift around any program it's indescribable, man. And so he might have been a Xavier Locke a week ago. I don't know. I mean, it made sense,
he may have told someone that he was going to go to Xavier.
Sure, but these things, we got to stop putting so much stock in these things because these players, their families, everything, these decisions change so quick, man. I don't want people flooding my mentions with talking about a crystal ball because it ends up half the time not even holding up.
Hunter Dickinson's, here's my crystal ball. Hunter Dickinson's going to Maryland or Georgetown.
Sure.
One of the two. I don't know which one.
Basketball. He's meeting with Kentucky on Zoom today.
That's good. I don't think he'll go there. Yeah. I think he's going to go to Maryland or Georgetown. That's my call.
Georgetown would be great for
He's from DeMatha High School.
Yep.
He's going to go to Georgetown. One of the two.
They also said that there were also rumors that he was going to pair up with Justin Moore. Now Justin Moore is staying at Villanova.
Well,
this is what I'm saying. You can't put too much. I don't know if that was ever a crystal ball, but
we'll just see what happens. I would love to see him in one of those 2 leagues. That's fine. Go to Kentucky. I don't know what you're going to do there that you didn't do at Michigan. And I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. That'll be interesting. Yeah. So, okay. So that's Nebraska's update. Now we move to Creighton. First of all, welcome back from Houston. The Big East has probably never been a more powerful league, maybe, than it is. The new Big East, I should say, has not been a more powerful league than it is at this moment. Yeah. They're coming off a national title. Obviously, Villanova did that a couple of times. But what did not happen those 2 previous times is there's basically a running mate. So UConn is a top 3 team and all way too early top 25s, A. B, so is Marquette. They're top 3. C, Creighton is top 10. Yeah. And as you put out on Twitter earlier today, Creighton being in the top 10 is contingent on all the starters coming back.
Yes.
So far, 4 reserves have decided to leave, but it's contingent on all the starters coming back, and some of them could leave for a variety of places, couldn't they?
Yes, and what really I think, and I talked about this in radio spots, there are players that I think are leaving, that people are leaving on these lists as returners.
Right.
Specifically one guy, and it's making me view these lists differently. It's telling me these people probably don't know what's going on around here. They're not around the program.
No one's more plugged in than you.
I'll stop. Anyway. And so,
except for the players themselves.
And a lot of this stuff is so fantasy based. Like even with UConn, man, they're acting like, and this is what drives me crazy about college basketball. Nuts, like literal nuts who don't watch all levels of basketball and close off their NBA window. Like I remember, I don't know if this was Rothstein or who it was, and shout out Rothstein, but I remember when Sharif Cooper was at Auburn, and people were projecting as if Sharif Cooper, and I know he went second round, but Sharif Cooper coming back to Auburn,
right?
Give me a break, man. Like people do this every year. Oh, if so and so comes back, people that are clearly going to the draft. Like Sanogo, if Sanogo stays, I mean, God bless him, man. It'll be great for college basketball.
What if he makes $1 million?
He's already worth $1 million in college basketball. I think this guy wants to try his hand at the pros.
Sure.
I mean, that's the guy you just can't be sold on coming back. Jordan Hawkins is a first rounder, and I'm seeing him be projected to return.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
Like, give me a break. Like,
but the other guys probably are. Caravan's not gonna go to the NBA.
No, yeah,
he's a good player.
They got a lot of their core still.
That giant center. How tall is the one guy?
7'2". Yeah, I believe
he looks taller.
They'll
than
be fine with him. But number 1 in the country, I don't know about that. Number 2, number 3, I don't know.
The projected number 1 team in the country in most of these rankings, and I know you've looked at them too, is either UConn or Duke.
Yeah,
and Duke's bringing in players.
I've seen Duke.
So, Duke.
They got a good class coming in.
Those kids aren't going anywhere. They're going to Duke.
Yes.
And so UConn is there, and then Marquette. And the advantage that Marquette has is I don't know that they have, a true NBA player.
Not this year.
They can bring back a lot of those players.
Oso is probably an NBA player next year. Omax Prosper could probably try his hand at the league next year. That's what they're working with, is that all those guys aren't part of this draft cycle. They're part of next draft cycle, which them being top 3 makes sense to me. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you're bringing back probably your entire team, a team that just won the league. And I will say that revisionist history with the Big East is crazy, because now people are saying, I like this league a lot. I love this league, man. I probably defended this league a lot this year because I think the top half of the league is as good as any in the country. But people were saying after UConn won, like, oh, it's the best league in the country. Like, hey, let's not forget about what the Big 12 did this year. It might not have panned out to go deep in the tournament, but throughout the year, I mean, these were the best. Their worst teams were as good as top half teams in other leagues. I mean, Texas Tech was losing so many games. In that league.
I think that's fair.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and if Texas makes the Final Four, and they play UConn, it might have been a different game.
And they missed Dylan Dessou in that game, in that final game.
Texas played a really bad 5 minutes, and they lost.
So I think these are the top 2 leagues, though, we're talking about. And especially if some of these guys.
Big Ten.
No, not the Big Ten. No,
I mean, there's a lot of issues in the Big Ten.
Oh,
we'll talk about that another time.
Decade-long issues. Yes. But yeah, I mean, especially if you look at the chances of guys returning, and, I think the outlook on the Big East now is shifting very quickly. I think people have gone to appreciate over the course of this year, the 10-year anniversary of the new Big East and the outlook on it, what they've done. And I think UConn's championship is just the cherry on top that is going to rake in some of those portal guys that probably weren't even thinking about, the Northeast or wherever the Big East is scattered now. I mean, you got the middle of America. And what else? So
5 national titles in 25 years for UConn. 2 national titles for Villanova. That's 7. Am I missing anybody? I don't think I am. Not in the Big East, right?
I'm not sure. I saw some numbers that were making me scratch my head and wonder if anybody else had won in the league.
I don't think even in the old Big East, I don't think there was any team that I'm missing. Many more Final Fours than that, obviously. 7 national titles in 25 years.
It's impressive.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Actually, it's 8. You know who the other team was that won the national title from the Big East?
Who's that?
Syracuse. Before they went to the ACC.
Right.
They beat Kansas in 2003.
Yes. Right.
8. And so that's really something. And if you go back the previous 25 years, and I know I'm trying to cycle this through my mind, you know how many national titles the Big East won?
What's that?
2. Villanova in 85 and Georgetown in 84, I think. Yeah. Were there any others? I don't think there were.
You would know better than I would.
The
Back
Big East
in your
is
day.
really good. And
Yeah.
UConn getting good was the difference. I mean, I think that's what changed it. And somebody was rattling off all the players that they've had in the past, and I was like, oh my God. They've had so many good
they
players.
Were all there. I mean, on the floor, you had Emeka Okafor, you had Rudy Gay, you had Ray Allen was there. Like
Ray Allen, Rip Hamilton.
All of their history was there. Rip Hamilton, Kemba Walker was in the stands.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody.
they've had a lot of elite players at UConn, and you can easily forget that. Okay, so let's move to Creighton here. So you're skeptical about these top 10 lists because, again, there's decisions to be made. I would agree that these top 10 lists probably should come out in sometime in late April because that's when you actually know who might go and who might go to the NBA. But let's talk about the 4 reserves who left. So Christophilus left. He didn't play much. Xander Yates, I think, played more than Christophilus. He left.
Yeah.
He was a walk-on.
He was
yes?
actually eligible. Yeah, he wasn't on scholarship.
He was a walk-on. Sharif Mitchell left.
Yes.
And he was basically the second guy off the bench. And Ben Stoltzberg left, and the coaches liked him.
Yes. Everybody liked him. I mean,
he
was
left.
He was a well-liked guy.
Why did he leave?
I think some of those you got to think across all these. The same reason we talked about John Tanji leaping at the Mizzou opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to wait for these decisions to be made across the country, whether that's your first destination or your home state school. Nobody, especially Creighton. I mean, these Big East schools, really Creighton specifically, has probably as many decisions to make as any team in the country. And so when you're sitting behind that and you already got Farabello who played more than you, stuff like that, and they're already actively seeking guards in the portal anyway, you don't know what it's going to look like for you. And I got to imagine that level of uncertainty was enough to push him out, especially, like, let's say Trey comes back. That's a guy who needs the ball. I mean, that guy turned into a top 2 player for them down the stretch. It's a guy who needs the ball. You don't want to take shots from him, right?
Right.
And so Ben, I think his game is real. He needs the ball. Not like he couldn't play off the ball because he can shoot, but I think he's more effective with the ball in his hands, making decisions, growing as
So he's a point guard.
I think it's a combo. I think he can run your offense, but I think he's a scoring guard who needs the touches, who needs the opportunity.
If Ryan Nembhard didn't have 2 years left, he would have stayed.
No, because I think he's looking at falling in the shooting guard slot more so, playing behind Trey or Farabello.
But there's no way that he would ever come back to Creighton. He would always be.
Ben Schultzberg?
Yeah. People do come out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think he's moving on.
Okay. Like we just wrote a story about a Nebraska football player who went in the portal and just,
Yeah, I don't think that's the case with him. I think
okay.
From what I keep seeing, I mean, and maybe this is just speculation. People were calling this a fantasy world for him, but I'm sure he's looking at Cali schools. If he wanted to, he could probably play at Cal. Did they hire another coach yet? I don't know.
They did, Mark Madsen.
Right, they did get Mark Manson. Yeah.
So you're saying that like he's behind Trey, like he is the guy that would back up
Who
Trey,
wouldn't be behind Trey? Nobody's looking at
Right.
playing ahead of Trey. They can get
or Baylor. Although Baylor could go to the NBA.
yeah,
Like
but that's
they
not his position.
I'm just saying the coaches liked Ben, and he left anyway.
Everybody liked Ben, and this is the crazy thing about the state of Creighton, that it's like you're seeing talented players that never would have let walk before. They just not like they're saying, oh yeah, like forcing them out. It's just
Right.
like you got to throw your hands up, because if you got a guy like Trey Alexander that can come back, I mean, what are you gonna do? You want that guy to come back.
Right. So Sharif Mitchell, he's gone.
I think,
And he would have had a role on next year's team.
sure, but it probably would have been similar to this year's team.
Okay.
And at this point, I mean, he spent 4 years at Creighton, 3 active seasons. I'm not sure his role was going to expand. He's kind of the player who he is, but at another school could probably experiment and play more on the ball and do things that he couldn't here with Nemhard and Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman as ball handlers. So I think the opportunity is there for him at a mid-major school, but Creighton, I'm not sure his role was going to expand any further.
Okay. Fred King and Mason Miller have not left.
No,
They have Fred King's obviously the backup center who will become the heir apparent.
Yeah, whenever that
Mason
is.
Miller,
assuming he's patient.
I think maybe Mason Miller should have played more at times.
And I think
there were moments when he did some really nice things on the floor.
And I think they will play him more next year. I think they're still pretty high on him.
He's got a pretty sweet shot.
Yeah, he's a good
You know who
shooter.
he reminds me of?
Don't say nothing terrible. Don't.
I
give me
wouldn't. He reminds me a little bit of the hot and cold shooter for San Diego State, Parrish.
Oh, Micah Parrish.
Yeah,
Think so?
a little bit. Now Parrish was not a defensive guy. He was their weakest defender. Yeah, a little bit.
Not
And
sure
Parrish
Mason
missed
Miller-
a bunch of shots against Creighton, and then he made several against Florida Atlantic, didn't he? Like he got him back in that game.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, a little bit. Yeah, like I wouldn't. Mason Miller's not going to be their best defender, but he is a guy that can go get you 8 or 9, and then Farabella's back. Technically, he has one more, right?
Yes, he can return.
He has a COVID year.
That's what, I think that's the expectation, is that he returns. At least that's what McDermott said way back when, and I think that's been the expectation since.
And if he took an Alex O'Connell leap, that'd be pretty sweet. He's
Farabello?
not the athlete that O'Connell is. He can't go baseline and dunk it over 2 guys. But
You talking about Farabello or Mason Miller?
Farabella.
Farabella's already played 4 years of college basketball. He kind of is who he is.
Well, if you could,
And
feel
Alex
free to go
O'Connell-
back and look at Alex O'Connell's numbers and
O'Connell
what
was
happened in his last year.
Alex O'Connell was a way different athlete, defender.
I agree
those
with you.
games are different.
He's a better athlete. I'm just saying that there's
Defender.
a possibility
He's a better defender.
that he could go, Farabello in the right situation could average 10 points a game. And O'Connell was more than that. He was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, and assuming Trey and all these guys come back, this is not the situation where he averages 10.
Okay. Do you anticipate the next 2 or 3 weeks still being? So you've got guys that are probably going to declare for the NBA draft.
Sure, yeah.
A lot has happened to this team. I mean, normally when a team goes to the Elite Eight, most guys want to come back. But what you're saying is some of these reserves see the writing on the wall and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to play much here. Or is it more of a, like Creighton now has the muscle to go out and get some elite transfers?
I think it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Everything you can imagine is happening with this new landscape. Creighton knows that it didn't play its bench the way it should have. Whether that is something they regret or not, I don't know.
Well, they didn't trust it.
They didn't trust it. They didn't trust it in the early season.
Not when it mattered,
So they
it
couldn't
didn't.
trust it later in the season.
Right.
Whether that's because they regretted how they built it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing. They're not going to build it the same way again. They're not going to put all the pressure in the world on Farabello to be their 6th man.
Mhm.
They're probably going to go out and get some guys who could give them more cushion and afford them a deeper rotation this time around. Because, I mean, the thing with Mac is, like, people always talk about his short rotation over the years, right? And last year was supposed to be the year, like, he's going 9 deep because they thoroughly believed they had the deepest team in his tenure. Now, it didn't work out to be that, but they're going for that. That's what they're aiming for. And so I think, they're being attached to a bunch of guys in the portal and whatnot, offering whoever. And so I think they'll come out with a couple wins on the recruiting tip. And they'll probably end up at least 8 deep, a confident 8 deep, not like this year's 8, but like a confident 8 deep that they feel probably better about than they did a year ago.
How deep did Connecticut go?
What's that?
How deep did Connecticut go?
I don't know. They had a good rotation. They had California. They had I'm trying to think. They had
the giant center.
Klingon. They had who else? Who am I missing here?
He's a good. I mean, that's a good backup center.
No, he's really good.
Well, I mean, good as a back. I mean, he was giant.
I mean, he would have started at a bunch of
he was trouble.
That was
he was trouble for Kalkbrenner.
Yeah, that was probably the best 2-man
Yeah.
big tandem in the country. I can't think.
Did you notice? And then it was in the Final Four game when they were playing Miami. Sonogo hit two or three
to start.
Like, are you kidding me? That's exactly what he did against Creighton.
Yeah.
At UConn.
The jumper's not fake, man. It
No.
might not be the strongest.
Clearly not.
It's not his strongest trait, but it's not fake.
He's similar. And so back to Nebraska for a minute. The guy that they're going to host has a similar looking jumper. Like he can make a three.
And it's nasty. Don't get me wrong, it's nasty, but it's not fake.
No, it's a similar.
People were trying to tell me it was fake, but it's not.
No.
He's hit them in big moments.
Yes, he did in the Final Four, no less. I really thought that was going to be a good game, and it wasn't a terrible game.
San Diego State or which one? Miami?
No, the UConn-Miami game. I thought it'd be fairly tight, but then they come out and do that, and I was like, it's going to be really hard for them, Miami, to come back.
There just wasn't a team on both ends that did what they did in that tournament.
No, clearly not.
I thought, and maybe this is because I'm around Creighton so much, I think a lot of people felt that Creighton would have been their best matchup. I mean, outside of the Big East, there was nobody who even touched UConn. I think they beat every non-conference team by double digits this year.
I agree with you.
There was not a team that could touch them. But in the Big East, they got slapped around. People were like, oh, they're not real, this and that.
Right.
I think that's just that just goes to show how strong the conference was, and I think Creighton was probably their best matchup, but it didn't happen. So
nope. Officials whistle made sure of that. Okay, I think that's probably about where we're at. Is there anything else that you see kind of? I mean, the portal is. Who's the best player in the portal?
The best player?
Yeah.
I have to think. I know Max Adams is in there. Caleb Love is still in there, even though the crystal ball is to Mizzou and Dennis Gates.
That's good.
I'm sure there are other people I'm not thinking of. I know the big man from Texas Tech is in there. I don't know if Khalil Ware is still in there. That's a former All-American.
Yeah, I know.
Jaden Bradley from Alabama is another former All-American.
So it's not Hunter Dickinson.
Oh, Hunter Dickinson, yes. Hunter Dickinson's in there. He's definitely top 3, top 5.
Just what if he does go to Georgetown? Man, what a league. I mean, that's a great league. You know Rick Pitino's going to put – I don't know what Rick Pitino's going to have
I trust him.
On the floor, but they'll win games.
Yes.
And then if Georgetown gets – and now what's this guy that's going to Providence?
Who's that, Kim English?
No, a player.
Oh, player.
He's got the guy from Wyoming, the big center from Wyoming, going to Providence. Graham Ike.
Yes. I forgot about that.
I mean,
yeah. And then you
could be a great league.
You already brought back Bryce and Devin, so Kim English is doing great things over there.
Mizzou he's going to be a good coach.
So, yeah.
He's going to be a really good coach.
I've been confident in him since they name dropped him. I mean, now people are on the way with him because he's real interactive. Like I knew, I'm not sure people knew the personality would be there. I'm not sure Ed Cooley was the biggest personality, but he just had that kind of gangster grandfather, not Italian, but like
I get what you're
my
saying.
boss.
Kim English does not have that, but
Kim English is a great young personality. I mean, playing these dudes one-on-one to stay on the team, you're not going to see that anywhere else in the country.
Yes.
This dude he's just a vibrant 30-something-year-old dude who still has the legs to whoop his player's ass in open gym. Like, that's a great personality to have in the league, and I think people are underrating that aspect of it.
I was surprised Penn State didn't go after him. I really was. I think Providence got the much better of the two coaches. Penn State's coach is fine, but it's not as good as what Providence was going to be.
Sure. And last thing I'll say, because you did ask me this, stop watching these preseason way too early. I shouldn't have to tell y'all this. I think
you're going to write about it, but
yeah, and read it, but don't take a ton of stock in it. And so I'll say, like, I don't know, man. Like some of the names I'm seeing on these returner lists, I'm not sure people should be so optimistic.
You said Jordan Hawkins is on one of these lists, and he's not coming back.
Yes, but I mean for Creighton specifically.
Yeah.
Some people are super optimistic, and I think not only has the feeling changed in the past few weeks, I think the feeling on some of these guys has changed in the past few days. You shouldn't be so optimistic. But if you're thinking everybody's going to leave, you shouldn't be so pessimistic. They're going to end up with a few of these guys. And I think Trey Alexander should be top priority. Him and Kalkbrenner, I think, became equally important players. I mean, Kalkbrenner was their most important player. Changed the identity of this team, changed the identity of the program to where it could lean on defense. They've never done that before, and he's the reason. Trey Alexander, their best perimeter defender. Similarly important, probably should be their top task.
Their best perimeter shooter
this summer, because I
know.
think he makes or breaks. I mean, I think they have a better feeling about, I don't know, a Kalkbrenner coming back or whatever. I mean, a couple of these dudes are probably going to enter the draft process and hold out till June or whatever. But Trey Alexander is going to make or break. Like, even if they lose a couple of those starters or whatever, one of those starters, if you keep Trey, Kalkbrenner, and a third guy, doesn't matter who it is, a third guy, that is a good core to follow with. I don't know if it's top 10, but I'm assuming they build the way they're supposed to. That's when you get to talking about preseason way too early. But Trey Alexander has to be a part of that group, or I'm not as confident.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Hey, we're in total agreement on how good he is.
Yes.
All right, for Joel, I'm Sam. That is the Half Court Press Podcast this week.